Hello, this is First Fire Non-Assault Move. Welcome back to the 34th video in the War in the East series. Let's get a situation report. It is now the second week of September, and we were fortunate enough this turn to not have mud in any of the Soviet zones, which allowed us to conduct offensives across the front. Well, it's really just smaller offensives to keep the Soviets off balance, not allowing them to mass forces in front of our main axis of advance, where we have grouped up our bulk of our combat power, which is now in the south. Therefore, we started to attack along the northern part of Army Group North's front. We brought over the 57th Panzer Corps to assist in this. We had some initial success. Multiple attacks here. We disrupted the Soviets, and we're getting them out of that fortified belt that they establish once they're just sitting there for weeks at a time. They're now out of their fort zones here across this river, the Emoji, I think it is. Emoji. Yeah, we'll go with that. So they have some fort levels here, but we're going to disrupt, displace them, and come around and threaten their flank. I think we have the combat power to make some progress, and I may even shuffle over a few more of our infantry that I've been holding the Pskov to Veliky Luki front. Since the Soviets are making no threat at all to our flank here along Army Group North's frontage. So that's a thought. We'll see how this progresses in the next week, provided there is no mud. We had that little threat here around Pskov, which we think we can continue to attack and get some favorable combat results against very thin Soviet forces here. Maybe that will force them to shift some forces to the north, which will pull them away from more critical zones, which will benefit us, second and third order of effects. So from Pskov down to Veliky Luki, our forces are just standing off against the Soviets, neither making any moves. So thinking of pulling one or two infantry divisions to augment this attack that we're going to attempt in this sector of Army Group North, and maybe take Tallinn and reestablish the 1941 front. So moving past Veliky Luki to the south, Veliky Luki to Smolensk, again no change, just resembling the front from Pskov to Veliky Luki. Really, from Pskov, when you think about from Pskov all the way down to Smolensk, it's been about the same situation. So I'm thinking of pulling maybe a handful of divisions, since we're not conducting any offensives and we have the combat power to resist the Soviets. From what they are presenting to us right now, I don't feel any buildup is going to happen in the next couple of weeks on the Soviet side. Any threat of an offensive along this frontage. So these infantry divisions that have just been standing idle might be better served elsewhere. Veliky Luki is still strongly defended, and the Soviets have a little concentration of forces here, so we don't want to strip too many forces away along this front should the Soviets recognize that and start making their local attacks, massing up against us. We're threatening these two Soviet formations. If they don't pull out, we'll probably be able to encircle them. They will probably bring down some forces to protect the flank, and from here, not much will be accomplished. What we like right now is what's happening to the east of Smolensk, and in and around Vyazma, we have a breach in the Soviets' lines. That's right, we've been talking about how the Soviets have thinly defended the line from Smolensk all the way down to Bryansk and even Sumy, where they've pulled the bulk of their forces to confront our offensive down here around Kharkov and further to the south. And the attack we had in and around Sumy a couple weeks back, there's still residual forces the Soviets have here, still strong forces, which has stripped them of massing up and defending in depth really along the bulk of Army Group Center's front. So we're going to try and take advantage of that. We are also attacking locally down here where we have a bridgehead over the, this is the Bulva. Is that the, the Bulva has been haunting us. It's really been a thorn in our side. If you remember the little minor offensive we had here, complementing our main axis of advance around Vyazma, we just couldn't get over the Volva. Well, we got over once, and it was a historic, epic fight, but that didn't amount to anything, and since then we have reconceded the Bulva to the Soviets. So now we have a bridgehead to the south of Bryansk and threatening, since we do have strong infantry here that I think are outmatching the Soviets. In a couple extra turns, if we were allowed to attack, no mud, we could get fully over here, over the Bulva with these formations and really threaten Bryansk to maybe have them concede the town or at least get an encirclement. Coupled with what we're doing up here around Vyazma, we are threatening now this thinly defended Soviet line. We don't have many forces of our own, but enough to cause some trouble and concerns to the Soviets and maybe have them shift forces back in and around Moscow's area of operations. Moscow's area of operations to reduce the troop concentrations in front of our main offensive down here around Kharkov. Before I forget, let's go to the losses screen. So we're up to 31,000, and that's because of what I'll point out, some failed attempts to take Dnipropetrovsk and to dislodge a Soviet strongpoint to the south of Kharkov. I kind of regret doing both. Well, I regret most the attack we did south of Kharkov, but the Dnipropetrovsk, I think that was a worthwhile attempt to get a favorable combat resolution and take that city. Since it's just sitting there, we have our forces arrayed. A great bulk of Army Group South's forces are arrayed there, kind of along a little wedge of the map up against the Dnieper. So I don't like how that's looking. So we try to take the city to relieve some pressure and dislodge the Soviets from that strong point. But to no avail. We lost 67 tanks. What really stands out is the 705 Soviet losses in AFVs. Yeah, let's look at destroyed units. And that came from these 3 tank corps that we destroyed. Remember those 3 tank corps that just kind of moved through a gap in our line unsupported and were just sitting there? The ones we surrounded, well, we destroyed them really easily. They all surrendered, and they lost significant tank forces and 3 full panzer, 3 full tank corps that will no longer be in their order of battle in facing the Germans. So that's pretty good. The bulk of the action is down here around Kharkov's area of operations and a little bit around Belgrov. The Soviets attempted a similar maneuver with these 3 tank corps. Unfortunately, they did support these 3 tank corps a little better, well, much better actually, than the other 3 tank corps we destroyed very easily. So no chance of surrounding these 3 tank corps this turn, maybe next turn. And with what we have going on here around Kharkov, provided there is clear weather and solid ground next turn, we may think of attacking north towards Belgrade and encircling these forces. I think the pressure around Kharkov may force these Soviets to pull back, but right now it's not an obvious threat to them, so I don't think they will pull back from the Sumy sector here. So here is where we made the attacks to dislodge the Soviets. Right here, these 3 corps, very strong defensively. Yeah, we failed, I think, 2 attacks. We had 80,000 forces against their 60,000. I think they had a fort level. Oh yeah, that's why it was so rough. They had already built up a fort level, over a fort level 2. We reduced them down to 1.6. breaking into their fortifications, reducing some of their strong points, but they held strong. Lost 400, very even trade-off here. Lost some artillery, damaged 15 of our own vehicles. The next one didn't do much better. We were down now to 32,000. I think we only had a couple of our forces weren't, a couple of our divisions weren't able to attack another deliberate attack, and that was unsuccessful as well, and still only reducing minimally the Soviet defensive positions. So that was unfortunate. So we decided we're not going to force the issue and try and take Kharkov straight up. We did encircle a small group of Soviets when we baited them down to come. We left a little salient here for them to come fill in and come up against some of our Hungarian forces, our allies there. Maybe the Soviets thought there was a weak point there, seeing Hungarian troops manning the line. So they did come down, and we were able to get in a little encirclement. So that's going to be another 7 Soviet formations off the books in the Soviet order of battle. So it's been tough to organize our forces after finishing off the pocket, moving back into the front line, getting our forces arrayed against the Soviets, and making attacks to Kharkov. So a lot of this turn was devoted to reassigning divisions to corps headquarters and getting more organized and ready for future operations. These panzer divisions will be tied up in this encirclement, and depending on the weather, we can definitely threaten the Soviets now to the north and the south of Kharkov. So Kharkov will fall in 1942. I'm pretty sure of that because we will attack in the snow for certain, and any remaining solid ground clear weather turns. Here we have a defensive line established. We organized our infantry corps, reassigned some divisions, so that's nice and clean right now. This is a mess around Dnipropetrovsk. We got this major river, the Dnieper, to the north, and a mass of Soviet forces to the south, and we have a little sliver of an advance trying to take Dnipropetrovsk. What we did, very interesting, we snuck down the 39th Panzer Corps with one Panzer and 2 motorized divisions. So now the Soviets are going to have to definitely take heed of what's going to happen in the next turn, provided we have, again, solid ground. Because the Soviets are only throwing in half-heartedly a defense just to slow the Romanians down. But now we have 3 solid German infantry divisions here, south of this mass, and now we have a Panzer Corps with all our Romanian forces. So they better adjust their disposition in the next turn or two. Otherwise, we're going to have a little breakout and scatter some of these airfields. That will take the pressure off. 11th Army up here, 3rd Panzer Corps, and the 36th Panzer Corps. I did move out the 34th Infantry Corps, got them on the rail lines for next turn, as well as the 14th Panzer Corps. I think the 14th Panzer Corps is going to go. Well, actually, they are traditionally assigned to Army Group South. They'll probably go to Army. Well, we do now have 3 Panzer Corps. We have the 36th, the 3rd, and now the 39th in Army Group South's area of operations, and they'll be assigned to Army Group South, I believe, moving forward for 1943. So we've reached our goal of getting 3 Panzer Corps down here, finally, back down here. So 14th, although it was traditionally an Army Group South, and it's attached to 1st Panzer Army, which I believe is down here. Where's 1st Panzer Army? Oh, you're up here, right? Yeah, there you are, which is Army Group South. So it takes about 25 admin points to reattach a corps to a different army group. or a Panzer Army. So that's all right. We have plenty. We did start at 500, and you can see just how many admin points we used, reassigning divisions really across the entire front. So we're a little more organized and ready for the next couple of weeks. What offensive weather, offensive weather that's offensively favorable. So we'll be ready for that. So that is a summary of the turn. I want to show you just what the front is looking like. It's not very favorable because it's tying up a lot of our forces to fill in the bends so we have a contiguous front. But what it does do is it creates some natural salients for maybe future operations in 1943. Interesting, we have a Kursk salient right there. But hindsight's 2020, and we are trying to avoid any disasters, and I think we're in a good spot. And I believe, I know it's hard to believe, that we are making finally an impression on the Soviets as far as losses go. Everything else has been completed, all moves and attacks, all the admin work behind the scenes. So now it's time to press next turn. Look at that. I was hoping they would do that. I was really hoping they would do that. Because I left a gap there in particular because I did identify a number of Soviet tank formations. All right, so we're going to very likely destroy another 3 Soviet tank corps. Excellent. What are they up to here? It's kind of a meaningless attack. I think they're going to defend viciously in and around Kharkov. Oh good, they're attacking south and west. Maybe I can beat them a little further and attack up near, where was it? North of Kharkov. It's a bit of an incursion. This is interesting behavior. We can really start making the Soviets even better moving forward. Hmm. Yeah, the Soviets don't miss an opportunity to attack our Axis miners. Not a bad response from the Soviets. They're attempting to do something to the south of our axis of advance around Kharkov, but it's going to backfire on them. They kind of handed us an encirclement, which is all right by me. Really isn't going to disrupt any attacks in and around Kharkov that we wanted to achieve, because we have plenty of combat power to pull out and take Kharkov while also eliminating that threat. I didn't see any action in and around Vyazma. Well, the Soviets keep it interesting. They do. They definitely put up a solid defense. Every now and then they try these shenanigans. Pulling back. Attack, pull back. Yeah. Would they really leave those divisions just stranded? They might have had some kind of threat there, which would make me pull some forces from places I don't want to pull them. Where they were attacking the Romanians. Now it looks like they pulled back. We'll see what it really looks like once all the units are rendered on the map. Big question, do we have mud? Oh my, do we really have clear? Don't tease me. Oh, yes. Well, random weather's being a little kinder to us in the later stages of 1942 than it was in the late stages of 1941 and the early stages of 1942. So I'm not complaining. No attempt to relieve these forces. What were they doing down here? Oh, it looked a lot worse, didn't it? Didn't it look worse when they were during their moves? It looked like they had tried to force numerous forces up here. What are they? See, that's just wasteful. I'm not complaining, but that was just absolutely silly on their part. Yeah, they recognized that it wasn't a good situation for them. They pulled out around Sumy and a general retreat, feeling the pressure on Kharkov. I guess they know that we, the Germans, are capable of grand encirclements, so... What did they do? Ooh, no. You're kidding me. They conceded Bryansk? Just from this threat? Well, hey, I'll take that any day. Well, there was only 2 Soviet divisions here, and now you have an assemblage of Soviet forces to block us taking Vyazma, but you know what? Yasma really wasn't our target. It was just to dislodge the Soviets from the Bulva coming north and east. All right, that's what we plan to do. And a general withdraw across the front. Interesting. Very interesting. Soviets have reclaimed the positions we made them retreat from. Fort levels, though, are not where they were originally, so those attacks were definitely fruitful. And we are going to apply the pressure again this turn. All right, some interesting stuff. What losses do we incur? Less, wow, significantly less, another 4,000 less, 45 AFEs. They lost 226 tanks. All right. Very good. Interesting reactions from the Soviets. They're going to lose 3 more, coupled with a 7, so 10 formations will be destroyed in the next couple of turns. I thought they were going to capitalize on some kind of, rupture in our own lines here, forcing us to pull forces here, pull back forces here, but they didn't give up Dnipropetrovsk. They're not going to do that without a fight. Interesting response from the Soviets. I'm going to end the video here to make it a short one, just get an update on the situation as it's developed after the encirclement and our attempts to take Kharkov in the next week or two. I think we'll be able to at least displace the forces in and around Kharkov with now that we have another turn of solid ground clear weather. Excellent. We'll be able to do some further damage, I think. The Soviets do recover fairly well when you have some ruptures because they have so many forces they can just, like they did, withdraw and pull forces from where they were stacked up against us and now rush them to front any advances and breakouts that we achieved. What we'll do then is shift our axis of advance and attack south and east to get over the Bulva. Yes, if anything, it'll be a prestige move to say, finally, we have crossed the Bulva. All right, I hope you enjoyed this update. It's a shorter video, but we will have more action soon to come. Hopefully, we'll be able to at least ensure the taking of Kharkov by the end of this next turn. This is First Fire, non-assault move, out.